Hey, it's the MorrowMarriage podcast, guys. This is a topic that needs to be discussed. It's actually a really new revelation that I had.
And it's going to ruffle some feathers.
Oh yeah, it's going to, but you know how it is. I'm going to tell you like it is because I want you to actually see the results that you want in your life, okay? Now, we're going to talk about why peace is so important in the home.
Stop trying to lead and make decisions all the time.
You should not be proud if you raised your voice and screamed at them.
No matter what.
No matter what.
I'm Cass.
And I'm Kathryn. Why am I allowing him to do this in front of our children? Why am I allowing this to happen at all? You don't get to say whatever you want to a man and push him to the point where he snaps.
I might have been a really bad man the other day, but today I went out of my way to be a good man, and she thanked me for it.
Is that you always want to act in the direction you want to go. So
He is just a paycheck. What about his needs?
we're MorrowMarriage.
Let's flip divorce statistics with the new marriage.
This episode is titled Proof That It Is the Man's Fault Marriage Sucks. Okay? I want you to stay with me and go on a magical adventure. Okay? Now, something always.
Me?
Now,
Okay.
by the way, I want to just sidetrack real quick. This came out because I was on this beautiful date back from Africa with my wife yesterday, and we just actually scheduled now Saturday date. This, if you don't know, podcast is a date for us, but we also work out in the morning together on Saturdays. It's still we do that twice a week. And then now
we work out more than twice a week. You see how jacked we are? We work out together twice a week.
twice a
I
week.
want to be
together.
clear.
Yeah.
I hate working out, so I want credit for every workout I do,
You do.
not just two of them.
Now, we also just decided that we love it so much, we've decided to take the afternoon. Find a way, guys. You know, you say you don't have time for dates. This is just a quick sidetrack lesson, okay? You just make the time. We put our kids in the daycare on a Saturday, and we're going to use that time where we don't have to manage babysitters because there's already scheduled date day. Okay. We do that with dates. We do that with sex sometimes. We do that with everything that we do. And you go, I don't have time. That's because you mean to say, I don't know how
make
to,
time.
Yeah, I don't know how to make time. I don't know how to organize time, whatever it is. Anyways, that's a sidetrack lesson. Proof it is the man's fault that your marriage sucks. All right. If you've been following me long enough, you would know that I talk about
Pause. So what he meant to say was, yesterday we were on this beautiful date, and it
Ah.
came up that there's this disconnect with men and women. And how the conversation started was, my business did really well last year.
Okay.
And because it rode his social media coattails. But the thing is, the women that resonate with him are like, oh my goodness, I need to talk to this wife. Don't wonder if she has anything wise to say. I'm not as out there on social media. If you're watching the podcast, obviously this is an equal partnership on the podcast.
Mhm.
But when it comes to everything else that we do, he has a huge lead on where his business is compared to mine. And so I made the comment, you know, I'm going to have to just be happy riding your coattails. And we have different goals, because if you listen to the last episode, I do more of the childcare. I'm going to be homeschooling our twins in September. There's all these things that are going to keep me from being up at the top. And he said, well, that's not really true. You know, as this progresses, because I'm the CEO of his business, and which is a lot bigger, and he's not involved in my business because it's a lot smaller, and we just don't need him much. We use you as a consultant a little bit.
Yeah, like I coach your women once a week, or I occasionally will reach out to someone
Yeah.
to help, or if they reach out, and vice versa.
And so we do
right?
work
Yeah.
together a lot, but he does so much more for business than I do. And so I use the term riding your coattails. And he said, well, I don't agree with that. You're the CEO, you're doing all these things, but hear me out. And this is where this theory came, where he said, there's a reason that I'm here and you're what you call riding your coattails. He doesn't see it as being like this, by the way. This is my demonstration. If you're watching us on YouTube, I have my husband is up at the top and I'm down at the bottom. That's not what he sees. It's just when I look at business, that's how I see it. But he's going to give you an explanation on why he thinks that is, and why he feels like it's the man's responsibility to be up there, and not, it's not a bad thing that the woman is not at the same place. It's actually a blessing, because we should get to be able to do all the other things that we were built and made to do.
Now, I'd like to get into this really simply. If you know anything about me, I talk about society's marriage. I don't think I've heard this anywhere else. It's something that I've been saying for approximately 2 years, maybe 18 months. And what I mean is this: when you have feminism, especially the extreme feminism, and you have masculinity, especially if you're relating that to toxic masculinity, I'm going to call that society's marriage, where you guys are just butting heads, clashing. Everything is like my rights. Well, this is where the blame comes in. This is where if you think about society's marriage, that's what's going on in your home. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And you are going, well, no. And I'm going to give you an easy example. If I have men commenting on my social media, it's never the men going, I want to take responsibility. I mean, occasionally.
Sometimes it is.
Occasionally.
You've worked with over 3,000 men. So
Yeah,
those men are out there.
Yeah, but they're not the ones commenting.
They're not commenting.
No.
They're not the loud, obnoxious
They're not going,
voices.
oh my God, I abused my wife last night like you, Cass. Thanks for letting me be the one to thanks for letting me use your outlet. No, they do that privately with me because it's hard, right? No man's like, oh yeah, my wife doesn't have sex with me, you know, and I should probably try to fix. That's hard because you also, a lot of men think they're alone. Now, what happens is you get the people, this is men and women, commenting and throwing blame, guilt, shaming or dumping, shame throwing, and you're constantly throwing this kind of blame. It's like, well, if women want to do this and leave the men, you know, or if she's withholding sex, well, then I'm going to hold money back. This is one comment I just saw the other day.
Oh my goodness, that was on my social media.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And like, okay,
women are not withholding sex. You're being assholes and they don't want to have sex with you.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Honestly, I listened to a call that Kathryn had with a woman yesterday. I was kind of in and out, and that's what she doesn't want to. She doesn't like her husband. Guys, it's
because he's
fucking
mean.
Attraction 101. If you did this on your first date, you're not going to have a second date. It's not about the sex. It's because you're an a-hole. If your partner doesn't want you, there's more. Anyways, that's off topic. So here, society's marriage, butting heads, butting heads, butting heads. Now, I want to break this down further. It's the man's fault, and here's why. If you think about the rise of feminism or the rise of women's power, I don't care what you're looking at. Okay. By the way, I am not a feminist. I'm going to clear that up right now. I am a people lover. Okay. I'm talking about taking responsibility today. If you are anywhere in the knowledge, in the know, you'd have to be an idiot if you didn't know that women have stood up for themselves. And now sometimes it's extreme.
Well, and the definition, I believe, of feminism is that women can be equal and are equal to men. So when he says the extreme, there's this whole feminist mentality that women have gone above and beyond because they felt like they have to prove that they're as good as men.
They can do it on their own. They don't need to,
because of how we've been subdued.
Okay, and that's where I'm coming from.
Right, but feminism in itself is not bad because you don't go extreme feminism.
Right.
Just like masculinity in itself is not bad. Masculinity is good. Feminism means that women are equal to men.
Yeah, like side note, if you think about feminine and masculine, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity or extreme feminism. Those are toxic people. Okay, that's it. You're either an asshole or you're not. You either love everyone or you don't. Yeah. Like it's black or white, guys. You can't be half in, oh, I love it's okay. No,
it's true.
But here is the reality.
There's a name for that.
Women, what's that?
Hypocrite.
Oh, hypocrite. Yeah. Oh boy, I used to throw that at you so much.
Oh, that's another episode. It's another episode.
So I want you to look at it like this. Women had no choice. Now, again, you don't have to, I'm not a feminist. Okay. You don't have to be anywhere on the spectrum to understand this. Clearly, women weren't allowed to vote.
What spectrum are we talking? Masculine, feminine,
all that stuff. Just at one point, women couldn't vote. There's an expression that was
they had
used.
to write at the back of the bus.
That's right. There was an expression. She should be waiting at the door, barefoot and pregnant, with a drink in hand and her cigarette lit. Like I didn't make this shit up. Women decided they were done being under a man's foot. Now, if you know anything, go listen to the partnership episode we just did. If you know anything about us, we talk about leading, we talk about strength, we talk about partnerships, superpower couple, fuck hashtag couple goals. Stop dreaming bullshit. That's baseline normal. Okay. Super power couple. Thank you, baby. And so, like, if you can really understand this, just no brainer. In what fucking world should that have been acceptable where women should be waiting at the door with your drink? You know?
Here, can I interject?
Yeah.
Unless that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
Like when I think about that, I have this desire inside of me to be more feminine than I am because society has forced me into being my own woman, forced me into being masculine. And I also have some of those qualities where I can stand on my own. I can do all of these things. But ultimately, if I think about it, it would be so nice not to have the expectation if he's like, you need to be at the door barefoot and pregnant with a drink and a cigarette. That sounds disgusting. But the idea that I would have the freedom to miss my husband, to be at home with my babies, whatever I'm doing, if I'm working, if I have at home, whatever I'm doing, if I have the freedom that when my husband comes home at the end of the day, whether I have a drink and a cigarette in my hand, that's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
That's like 1920s stuff right there. But
I think
being
even the
on the
60s.
step I think the big thing is being on the step to meet your husband. Wives didn't want to be on the step to meet their husband because their husbands were being, again, assholes.
Oh, assholes. Yeah.
I was waiting for him to fill in the blank, you guys.
Sorry.
He was waiting
for you to
letting
go.
me to, yeah.
Okay. That's such a valuable point. Let's just step sideways for a second and just stay there.
Totally.
So there's a guy in my program, 4 weeks in. I love this example. And his wife is taking off his work boots when he comes home. She wants to. We laughed. Like, we don't even get up from the, like, if I'm working at the table and Kathryn comes in and out of the house all the time. If I come home or if I'm moving around, whatever, Kathryn doesn't necessarily look up from her phone. She might just say, hey, baby. We don't have the run to the door to greet each other. We have what works for us. She comes to me to tell me she's proud. I use this example because it's one of my favorite. So I use this all the time. But she sits in my lap and she says she's proud of me. She throws her arms around me. She touches my face. She gives me a kiss. Like, so you find what works for you.
You find what barefoot,
okay?
pregnant, waiting at the door with a drink and a cigarette looks like for you.
The only reason she's doing that is because she's working to meet me, because I already worked to meet her. We have an episode coming up on that. Okay. And I want to just stress, you're going to find your own way. It's not about the dinner must be made at this time and all that. Like, that's fucking horseshit. Like, life is life. And I could not imagine if you were expected to have dinner done ready at this time every single day with the chaos of just even like the kids. Like, you guys got to just pay attention. Anyway, so that's a side note. I want you to understand why it's the man's fault. If women were forced to stand up and say, no, I need to vote, I need to be equal. Right now, men are they are being the feminists, except for they're being manimists, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Manimists. Okay. You are deciding to protect yourself because you're tired. Now you want to rise up.
Misogynists.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Thank you. So what's happened is women were forced to stand up for themselves. And yes, it's been taken to an extreme. Then men are forced in their mind to stand up for themselves. But see, men also have to, because now they have to say, whoa, if you don't need me, fuck you. Where women
now they are forced to make themselves feel like they're better than women.
Right.
It's this
society's marriage.
Oh my gosh, it's
okay.
Terrible.
So I want to just take a step back and we could end this episode quite simply. Listen, if it might not have been you who was suppressing the woman, the foot on her. It might not have been you. We always talk about our tax dollars paying for land that was stolen from different cultures. And I had nothing to do with that. But at the end of the day,
same thing though. It might not have been you that put your wife in the position to make her feel like she needed to be as good as a man. Society did that. And when your wife feels like she needs to compete with you and then you compete back, you have this cycle of competition, which isn't getting anybody anywhere. So that all comes back to, why is it the man's fault in marriage?
So that means that if we cause the problem, if you want a woman to soften, you see what you guys don't know.
And when we say we caused the problem, again, relate that back. You didn't cause the problem. Men as a
whole,
gender, as a sex, as a species, if you can say that, back then made women feel like they weren't good enough. It was some sort of societal hierarchy.
And now women, you're doing it to men. And now men are rising up. So you guys got to stop. Fucking leave. It's the whole, if you're going to blame, fucking leave. Okay. Or men, there's a reason why, if we take the total money that my business makes, the total amount of participants in my program, and we add my business and Kathryn's together. So we'll call that the total. 75 to 80% is always men in my program. Why? These men, without knowing it, want to step into the solving of the problem. They want to realize that, whether or not they know it yet until I teach them, that they realize that a woman is naturally, and not all of them, I have to teach this, a woman is naturally loving, empathetic, nurturing, compassionate. If you don't know that, wake up. That's what a woman wants to do. Look at a little girl. You have a little girl, look at your friends, your little niece, whatever you need to. They're cuddling and loving a baby. Look at your little boy. He's smashing trucks and playing dinosaurs.
And it's well known that boys are more difficult when they're little boys. Why? Because girls and boys are different creatures altogether. We were born different. We were made differently, and we act differently because there's a complete divide between who a little girl is and who a little boy is. And we should not be encouraging them to try to be the same. We should be building on their gifts, encouraging their gifts, and getting them to do what it is that they can do anything. And I'm not saying like a girl can't be a police officer, or a girl can't be an air traffic controller, like some of those more, I would say, masculine roles. I don't even know. Maybe I'll get crucified for saying that, but I'm not saying that you can't do that. There's different personality traits as well. But in general, girls are nurturing. You give girls some blocks, they're gonna rock it and turn it into a baby. You give boys blocks, they're gonna turn it into a gun and shoot you.
Like you guys, we can do a whole episode on this. Like obviously more people need to talk about this and get more vocal about this. But listen, it starts not necessarily that's just an understanding point. Okay. It starts with you. The reason why men need to understand it's their fault is because if you want your wife, I'm going to break this down like this. Maybe you don't like empathy. Maybe you don't care about her support. Maybe you're just fucking horny. Okay. You want more sex. Where do you think that comes from? It comes from her loving you. We have sex every day. She doesn't want to have sex every day, right? Kathryn wants to be there with me.
I love him.
Sometimes she wants to have sex and sometimes she wants to be there with me and connect. That comes because I showed up. I took responsibility first. I wasn't perfect at it. In fact, you did a lot of work. Guys, that's the thing though. If I wanted to bring out Kathryn's natural, loving, empathetic, nurturing, we talk baby talk all the time. I love you so much. Like, why?
We baby talk.
Because if I show up and I lead, go listen to the partnership episode. If I show up and provide a solution, I don't have to have all the answers, but I can do my part. I can take responsibility. A woman can soften. If you want your wife to soften, if you're a wife listening and you want to soften, encourage your husband, because at the end of the day, you might not be able to soften, not yet. But if you encourage him, you'll get what you need back. And this is so important because if a man can take responsibility and you start, again, we're going to do an episode on this, but if you start giving your partner everything they need, no matter which side you're on the fence right now, when he steps out and realizes, I can bring her back from her independence. It's not that I want to take Kathryn's independence. In fact, I'm going to take her independence. I'm going to attach it to mine, and we're going to go everywhere we want to go because we come together as two strong individuals.
Yeah, amen.
Okay.
I have two things.
Okay.
Number one, women, this doesn't negate your accountability and responsibility to be the best woman that you can be.
Yeah, amen. Yeah.
So when I love that my husband just said amen.
Yeah.
So when men say it's their fault, you know what, when we look at the grand scheme of things, the reason that women are needing to step up in the way that they're stepping up right now and for the last, 30 years is because of the treatment of men. You can't put that on your husband and say, this is your fault. Men, I think you should listen to him when he says this is your fault. Women, I want you to do exactly what I did and say, okay, where can I be different? What have I been doing wrong? And how can I grow so I can support my husband in being the man that he needs to be because he's going to lead the family.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second thing is I just want to lighten this a little bit for a second.
Okay.
He talked about allowing me to be like bringing out that feminine. So you all know that we have chickens, right? And you guys, I don't know if you get all the reels. He's so scared right now. Yeah. You get the reels on Instagram. Like March was buy your wife a cow month. I've seen reels with like really, really, really awesome husbands that are like, hey, I don't know if all the other husbands know this, but have you ever tried buying your wife a farm animal? Do you know why your wives love all of this? It's their desire to nurture. I have chickens. I right now also have baby chicks. Why? Because y'all listened a couple episodes ago. I don't want any more children at this time. But baby chicks don't yell at me, and it gives your wife, most men, even if you have chickens, you probably don't care about baby chicks. He said it to me yesterday. He's like, I'm glad this brings you joy because I really don't care about the baby chicks. Wives and children, they love the baby chicks. This allows me to be who I need to be. Oh, I wanted to relate this back to, this is one of the reasons we have sex every day. I'm not saying go buy your wife some baby chicks. It won't work for everybody. But whatever she wants to do, I want to have my chickens. I want to have my baby chicks. I want to be a little more lackadaisical and in my flow.
Don't go too far into this because I want to do a whole episode on
this.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's about it. He allows me to be who I am naturally. I want to nurture. I want to raise baby chicks. I want to take care of my chickens. I want my senior dogs. And he wants to have sex every day. He doesn't want the chickens. He's okay with them though, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to have sex every day. I want to have sex with my husband. Don't get me wrong. But I want to give him what he needs because he gives me what I need. And it just comes down to partnership. Go back a couple episodes and listen to that one again.
Yeah, it's a really great way to finish it, guys. It's honestly, I want to just reiterate this before we go. I know this is a long one. Sorry, guys, but
don't apologize. It was so good. That was his nice guy.
We need you to understand, if you're a man, if you can take responsibility and bring out, right, supporting her with giving her the animal she needs. It's not just chickens. There's senior dogs, and there's, I talk about the goat in the future, the cow in the future. Like,
we don't know.
We don't know. Okay, we actually, I was joking. I was taking pictures of babies in Africa. I said, I can't take any babies home for you, honey.
I asked him to bring me home I asked him to bring me home an African orphan.
They're-
I changed
they're
my
all-
mind 3 days into the trip because our children were about to be orphans. But
What happens, guys, and you maybe don't see this because, you know, a lot of you, the marriage started to go downhill after the kids, right? But what you need to understand is when you can support her feminine, when you can support her loving, nurturing side, a lot of that, you as men, is the gifting, the serving. Okay. Number one. Number two, it's just showing up and allowing it to happen. It's not always gifting. It's just letting her have her feelings so that she can get them out and then be with you. And when that happens, you're starting to take responsibility for yourself, and you have the power to take her. I'll pretend she's the worst of the worst feminist. We'll call her the toxic one because you probably don't think you are, right? Well, now she's going to soften. That's your job. You want a soft wife. You do. And women, you want a soft husband, gentle but firm, really, right? And so if you're the woman listening, then I want you to encourage your husband. So you're going to have to be the one that steps out and allows him to be there so you can be allowed to be who you are. Okay. It sucks. Either way, because I know more and more couples are listening to this, a lot of times it's just one of you. And so it sucks if it's just one of you. But take the responsibility on and move it.
DM us if you have questions.
I love it. All right, guys. We'll see you later.